Hey guys, and welcome back to my channel. I'm very excited for today's video because it is so long awaited from me. I'm going to be talking to you about why I believe in the truth of the Torah in its divinity, that I believe the Torah is from God. Why I believe that, because if you've been watching my channel for a long time, then you know that I became religious. I became a Torah observant Jew later in life, in my early 20s. And before that, I led a very secular lifestyle, non-religious. My family did not brainwash me in any way to think these certain beliefs. I am the only religious person in my family that believes this. That lives their life in accordance with that they believe this. And so how did I come to that realization, right? Because Judaism is not a religion that preaches that you should just have blind faith, that you should accept the Torah is true because we said so, that we believe in a God, and now let's tell you about that. That's not Judaism. Judaism says, logically and rationally, there must be a cause, a first cause, an infinite creator that created everything on this planet. And because every intelligent design has a designer, right? They all have a cause. And there's a way more to this, right? Like I'm just scraping the shallows of these ideas right now, based off what I just believe and how I justify and think through my own beliefs personally. But you can find people online who are so much smarter and more knowledgeable about this stuff than I am. I highly recommend two books: Permission to Believe, that's about believing in God, and then Permission to Receive, which is about believing in the Torah. Both of those break down a lot of scientific proofs for God and for the Torah. If you have like a more scientific mind and you just are like teetering on faith, maybe you can believe, but probably it's hard for you. So I think those books are amazing. And there's a lot of other books that I read in my process of becoming religious, and even still now, because I think it's so fascinating to be able to justify what I feel in my heart and soul with my own relationship with God, with science and logic and rationale. I think it's very, very important, and Judaism definitely does. There's tons of books that talk about the scientific proof of the Torah, of God, and I'm going to share some of those with you today. First, this week, Shavuot is coming up. So Shavuot is the holiday that we celebrate Hashem giving the Torah to us at Mount Sinai, and it's interesting because we did not actually receive the entire Torah at Mount Sinai. That wouldn't really make any sense, because how can we receive like the Torah? Because of the Torah, we don't drive on Shabbat, right? But how could we receive something thousands and thousands of years ago that talked about driving when we did not even have cars back then, or electricity, right? So what did we actually receive on Shavuot? It's a machlokes, it's a debate, but many Jewish Halachic authorities believe that we received the first two of the 10 commandments on Shavuot. Now, why do we think that, right? Are we just taking people's word for it? Like, that would be really weird. Why would I believe that somebody heard God speak and now I'm going to live my entire life according to what you heard? Like, that doesn't make any sense. So I'm going to walk us through, in honor of Shavuot, the giving of the Torah, the mass revelation theory, because I think it's very interesting. But if you want to explore more of this, definitely read books on it. Check it out online. Please listen to rabbis speak about it. They know a lot more than me. I'm just sharing from my own experience. So basically, in Parshas Yisro, in the Torah, we are given the Torah by God at Mount Sinai. Well, Moshe is given the Torah, but let me actually read you what the Torah says, okay? God descended onto Mount Sinai to the peak of the mountain. God summoned Moshe to the peak of the mountain, and Moshe ascended. God said to Moshe, "Go down, warn the people not to come up to the mountain, lest they break from their present position due to their desire to go nearer." Okay, God speaking to Moshe, On the third day, this is at Mount Sinai, on the third day, when it was becoming morning, there was thunder claps and lightning flashes. A thick cloud was upon the mountain, Mount Sinai, and a very powerful blast of a shofar. The entire nation that was in the camp shuddered. Moshe brought the people out from the camp towards the divine presence, which approached them, and they stood at the bottom of the mountain. This is the Jewish people standing at the bottom of Mount Sinai, and what they witnessed. The whole of Mount Sinai smoked because God had descended upon it in fire. Its smoke ascended like the smoke of a lime kiln. I don't know if I'm saying that word correctly. And the entire mountain shook violently. The sound of the shofar grew increasingly stronger. Moshe would speak. God would respond by amplifying Moshe's voice. God descended onto Mount Sinai to the peak of the mountain. God summoned Moshe to the peak of the mountain, and Moshe ascended. So Moshe went up the mountain. Basically, the 10 Commandments are given. God says, God spoke all the 10 Commandments in one single utterance. He then went back and specified each one individually. The Jewish people responded yes to the positive commandments and no to the prohibitions. And then it goes through the 10 Commandments. I am God who took you out of the land of Egypt, out of the house of bondage. That's the first commandment. The second commandment, you shall not possess any idols of other deities so you shall have no other gods. The third commandment, you shall not take the name of God in vain, for God will not absolve anyone who takes his name in vain. Then the fourth commandment, remember the Sabbath day to sanctify it, and on and on and on until the 10 are given. So this is what's referred to as the mass revelation that Judaism is based off of. And Judaism is the only religion that has ever claimed to witness this mass revelation. This is a revelation that was given to 600,000 people at Mount Sinai, people of all ages, not one specific person, not only Moshe, not only the men, not only the adults, kids were there, women were there, hundreds of thousands of people saw this. How do I know? Like, why am I saying this? I sound crazy. How do I know? So basically, the proof for this is based on the logical argument that every other religion, right? Like if we go through them, Islam, Muhammad had a dream, right? And he is the prophet that makes claims that bases their religion off of what Muhammad dreamt, right? He spoke to God, this and that. Jesus Christ also spoke with God, right? He was the prophet, and he told his disciples, and then they spread it. Judaism, we don't have an intermediary like Muhammad or like Jesus. We have only the people themselves, the entire nation of average people like you and I, saw firsthand and heard firsthand God speak the first of the 2 commandments. We saw the revelation at Mount Sinai. We saw the smoke. We saw the lightning. We heard the shofar. We felt and experienced the divine presence. How do I know, right? That makes no sense. Well, it's because it's like this. If one person wants to make up a lie, like pretend we have Bob. Bob wants to start a religion. Bob can tell Joe, okay, I just spoke to God, and he said that this book is true. Let's start a religion. And Joe and Bob go start this religion so they can tell people that they spoke to God and they have the correct book. They have the right religion. Watch all the miracles they can do. They can do that. But they can't tell other people, you heard God. You heard him. So you need to know that this book is true because you spoke to God. You can't tell people, if you're trying to create a religion and solidify a book, you can't tell people that they experienced something that they did not experience. You can't make up a lie of that magnitude. Okay, maybe 12 people can get together and say, we're going to make up this lie that I spoke to God and all 12 of you heard me and we're going to create this new religion. But for hundreds of thousands of people to carry on a tradition, it can't be that they actually didn't hear it and that they were told to carry on a tradition of something to say they experienced something that they did not experience, because claims would come out to be false. The lie would have to eventually unravel, right? People are not going to admit that are not going to say they experienced something that they didn't experience in such numbers, in hundreds of thousands, and keep that lie going for generations upon generations through all the persecution that the Jewish people have experienced the massacres throughout since the beginning of time because someone one time said that they experienced something that they did not experience. Like, you can't convince people that this book does not say Moshe saw God and talked to him. This is the Torah. This says that you saw the miracles with your own eyes. You heard and experienced the divine presence of God with your own bodies. And now here's what you have to do because of that, because of what you experienced. It's totally different. It's a totally unique claim that no other religion can claim, or else they would. There is a reason that Judaism is the only religion that claims to have a mass revelation where every single person believes that their ancestor directly stood at Mount Sinai and heard the Torah given firsthand. It's not a secondhand account. We have a tradition that's based off of our own selves, our ancestors, our descendants, being chosen as a nation, right? Not even a religion, as an actual nationality, being gathered together at a mountain, hearing the voice and experiencing, seeing the sounds, the lightning, what this and that, and feeling God's presence. And then they told their future generations. And that is the first revelation theory, the mass revelation theory that is just so unique to Judaism and doesn't require any ounce of blind faith. In fact, it's almost more miraculous that Judaism has survived, right? Because where no other nation has survived as long as the Jewish people. If you think about any other huge, glorious nation that has so much wealth, imagine the Romans, the Greeks, this and that, all of them have been destroyed. But the Jews are still around. They're the smallest. They're the scatteredest. They don't have a strong, only until recently did we have the land of Israel. But before that, we were literally scattered all around the world, keeping our traditions alive at what cost? Being persecuted, being holocausted against. It's miraculous, their survival. And I think it takes more faith to be, God forbid, an atheist and have to come up with an excuse for the survival of the Jewish people throughout so many centuries and so many attempts to completely wipe out their entire nation without God. That's almost harder to me. And there's a few other points I want to touch on, although this conversation could go on forever and ever, and there's way more informed people talking about this. But the Torah specifies which animals are kosher. This is another scientific proof of the Torah. The Torah specifies which animals are kosher. It says that an animal is kosher only if it has completely split hooves and chews its cud. If it has neither of these two signs, or it only has one of these two characteristics, it's not kosher. Then the Torah says there's only 4 animals that have either split hooves or chew their cud and are therefore not kosher. Now, from the time the Torah was given to us until now, more than 3,000 years have passed. 3,000, over that. We've discovered new continents. We've discovered new countries. We've discovered thousands of new animals. And yet, animals, by the way, that didn't exist in the land of Israel with Moshe and the Jewish people in biblical times. These are new animals unique to new climates. And yet, the number of animals with one of these two characteristics has never changed. There's still only 4. Is that not proof that the Torah could not have been man-made? How would any man know which animals are living on the other side of the world? And how would any man claim that there will never, ever be an animal discovered that doesn't meet one of those 2 criteria in the rest of the history of the world and base their entire religion off of that? It's a huge claim. It's a crazy lie to make up, because if you get caught, then the entire book, Chatz v'Shalom, is unravels. So that is another scientific proof of the Torah, which really, really speaks to me. The next proof I want to bring up is in Parsha Behar. The Torah, it instructs the Jewish people to refrain from working on the land during their sabbatical year. So then the Torah says, if you ask, what are we going to eat that year if we don't plant and harvest? The Torah continues, I will give my blessing, Hashem will give Hashem's blessing, that the earth will produce the year prior to the sabbatical year enough grain to last until you're ready to harvest the following year's produce. Basically saying that the sixth year will take care, or the sabbatical year will be taken care of. They won't need to worry, they'll always have enough. Which person would make a promise for all the generations to come that the people should always rest every seventh year? Quite the claim. Every person knows rationally that there are things that are totally beyond their control. They could have a drought that could wreak havoc on the land and prevent them from having enough food. They could have a flood. Anything could happen. So no intelligent person would set up a religion where they make a crazy claim that you're not ever to work for an entire year and I will produce enough of the ground of the harvest that you're going to be completely taken care of. Who would say that? You're setting yourself up for failure. And yet we find that that's exactly been the case in the land of Israel, and that the Jewish people have been able to successfully keep the sabbatical year every single year. It's absolutely miraculous. And there are so many other proofs of the Torah, and I'm not saying this to prove, it's like ironic because I'm actually not trying to prove anyone, because I don't believe that if you don't believe in the Torah and you don't believe maybe in Hashem and you just watch this video, do I think you're gonna believe? Absolutely not. And that's not my intention. Judaism doesn't go around, pushing our religion on anybody to convert at all. In fact, it's an extremely difficult, challenging process to convert. I just say this because I think it's fascinating. I think it's interesting. And I love learning about this stuff, especially around this time of Shavuot when we're being given the Torah. This week, we're celebrating the receiving of the Torah. I think it's really powerful to remind ourselves of its infinite nature, of its magnitude, of its truth, and remind ourselves that we are not going off blind faith at all, but there's so many, this is the reality. This is the truth for me, at least. And it serves as an amazing way to strengthen our faith. So thank you so much for watching. If you want a part 2 of this video, there's literally so many more proofs I could bring up, and interesting scientific claims to the Torah being true. And let me know if this would be interesting to you, and I would love to make that video. Like and subscribe if you haven't yet, and I will see you next time. Bye.